We will talk here about SPARC data structure mandated by the consortium FAIR data sharing policies. Reviewing SPARC data structure SDS, we will show you how to create dataset directly on Blackfynn and how this tedious process can be simplified with use of SODA tool. Using one of actual SPARC data, we will show you how to utilize SODA, starting from showing you where to find the tool, how to install it, and then prepare metadata, organize files, and the proper location. We will be discussing preferred folder arrangements. We will show you effortless uploading of your data to Blackfynn. Finally, we show you how to submit your dataset for publishing review. And on the end, of course, we will take time to answer your questions. The data produced by SPARC projects is highly heterogeneous, deriving from multiple species, spatial and temporal scales, and anatomical, physiological, and molecular techniques. Up to date, we have received data from over 80 research labs around the globe. Experimental realms are referencing 20 organs from 6 species. To ensure that SPARC data adhere to the FAIR data principles for making data findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable, the SPARC curation team is charged with providing human and machine-based curation to implement community standards and annotate each data with rich metadata. To date, SPARC has been curating data to 2 primary standards developed by the SPARC consortium. The first one, the minimal information specification, MIS, is a semantic metadata scheme capturing key experimental and dataset details. The second one, the SPARC Dataset Structure, SDS, a file metadata organizational scheme, is inspired by brain imaging data structure, BIDS, and was developed by the neuroimaging community. SPARC investigators are required to submit their data in SDS, and a submitted to SPARC dataset should include data both raw and processed if it is applicable, as well all supporting materials necessary for third party to reuse the data. The idea is that any SPARC data is accompanied with enough supporting information that can be either reproduced or replicated. SPARC project is highly promoting data sharing and reuse within global scientific community. This annoying rigid file structure and naming convention that we are constantly reinforcing as a curation team is meant to facilitate machine discovery and processing. To simplify, the structure and rigid naming convention is not meant to be understood by scientists only, but computers as well, for the machines which are going to be executing queries within and across those heterogeneous data sets. When completed, a shared SPARC dataset is consisted of SDS structured data along with required metadata uploaded to Blackfynn, accompanied by experimental protocol edited in protocol.io. Each dataset is enhanced by rich metadata coming from fiduciary marks and metadata in segmented images, registration and visualization onto flat maps and 3D spatial scaffolds. Those services are provided to the SPARC community by MBF Bioscience, a leading neuroimaging company that is part of curation team that is in addition to performing fiduciary markup, and reviewing of images. It converts all proprietary image formats to open source one without losing imaging data. And then another group that is part of curation team is Auckland Bioengineering Institute of New Zealand that maps and registers data from all types of experiments to flat maps and 3D scaffolds. Lastly, each dataset is followed with curation notes summarizing the key parameters of the dataset, like experimental design, definition of subjects and samples, description of primary and derivative data. All those efforts are aiming to enhance dataset findability, accessibility, reusability, and interoperability. Currently, SPARC data is uploaded to Blackfynn data platform, which provides a private password-protected space for researchers to store and organize their data. Investigators are required to upload their data within 30 days of completing a particular milestone. Investigators are given instructions and templates to organizing their data according to SDS, and are expected to upload their data in this format. However, Blackfynn is a general purpose data storage platform that is serving a broader medical community, and as such is not tailored to very specific needs and requirements that SPARC imposes. The information is scattered between 3 different systems: Blackfynn platform, KCOR documentation, and SPARC portal. Data is uploaded and managed manually with manual error-prone entries and without clearly defined workflow. The process is often confusing and really time consuming that we are all aware of. Here, I would like to propose the solution to your data curation pains. A software to organize data automatically, SODA. That is a program meant to make uploading of dataset into Blackfynn a quicker, easier process. SODA is completely free, up-to-date tool that is installed straight onto your desktop and available for PC, Mac, and Ubuntu. Although the software is in early stages, the team is constantly adding new functionalities, proving SODA very helpful in data submission process. The goal of using SODA is to streamline SPARC data curation and submission workflow, centralize submission of SPARC dataset, and have a process that is set in the logical and easy perform steps. Also, SODA includes automation to reduce effort and human-made errors. For the demonstration, we will be using a SPARC dataset courtesy of Dr. Lixing Wang with Tashe Group at UCLA. I uploaded files to my local machine to simulate an environment in which every researcher would store experimental data files on his personal computer. The study used vectors to label the enteric plexus in the mouse proximal colon, producing confocal microscopy images and neutral traces that were performed with neurolucida. And when we look at the structure of the files mimicking the normal file structure, we will see the source microscopy images format included in dataset that are CGI, LSM, and LIF. The CGI and LSM files are generated from Zeiss microscopes, so using the proprietary Zeiss software. LIFT files are coming from Leica microscope and are actually container files containing multiple images. Besides raw images coming directly from the confocal microscopy, dataset contains innovative digital segmentation and tracing of nerves in 3D using NeuroLucida. I also included here, getting a little bit ahead of myself, a folder called microfile conversions. This is a folder that I generate that in general would be added by MBF Bioscience team during curation process. And MBF created Microfile Plus is a software that is freely available and converts and how all the proprietary images, helping to alleviate loss of metadata encoded in proprietary formats. And variety of microscopy images are converted to OMTIF and JPEG 2000 and are with open source software like ImageJ or Fiji. And lastly, knowing SPARC requirements, I already have templates with metadata files profiled with the basic information about samples and subjects, as well as data description. Before Bhavesh will take the seemingly unstructured folders to demonstrate the ease of SODA use, I would like to quickly show you and emphasize once again the recommended file arrangement with SPARC data structure. When we're looking at the data structure that we are all familiar with, where we have mandatory files describing data set as data set description, sample subjects and submissions, we also need to remember about the primary data and the way how it should be structured and reflecting exactly the subject and samples ID. So please remember that in both primary and derivative data, the folder's name should absolutely reflect and be identical with the names of subjects and samples. And here I'm gonna let Bhavesh to show you live demonstration.
Thanks, Anna. Hi, everybody. I'm Bhavesh. As Anna mentioned, I'm developing this software called SODA. And today, I'm hoping through this demonstration, I'm going to convince you that SODA can make your curation and sharing task a lot easier. And as Anna mentioned, SODA can be downloaded and installed on any computer or laptop. And once installed and you launch the software, this is our starting page that you see here. And the first thing I would recommend is to go into our Getting Started tab right here. And there you'll find two resources. First is a couple of minute video that will help you familiarize yourselves quickly with the user interface of SODA. And the second resource is a link to our documentation that explains step by step how you can prepare and share your data set for review with the curation team. So if you follow all these steps from beginning to end, you would have a SPARC structured data set with all your metadata file included and so on, and that's ready to be reviewed by the curation team. And so what I'm going to do today is to go through all these steps with this sample data set that Anna introduced that's currently in a non-structured format, and we will assume that there is nothing yet on Blackfynn for this data set. And the first few steps that are listed here are what we call preliminary steps. They're only required once, and they're here to help connect different SPARC resources with SODA, so they could be used to help you in your data curation and sharing process. And the first thing that you would require is to download and install the Blackfynn agent. This Blackfynn agent is a tool developed by the Blackfynn team, which is used to upload your files from your computer, and in this case from SODA, into your Blackfynn account. And the second thing that we ask you to do is to connect your Blackfynn account with SODA. So if you click on any of these links, of course, we have a bit more detail about what to do and how to do that. And we explain, for instance, here that you could connect your Blackfynn account under Manage Dataset and connect your Blackfynn account. And we provide some indication within the interface and again, documentation to help you easily connect your Blackfynn account with using their key and secret. And once you do that, you should see your Blackfynn account listed in SODA. The next step that we ask you to do is to connect your Airtable account with SODA. Again, we explained to you that this could be done under Prepare Metadata and Connect to Airtable. To give you a little background, on Airtable, there's a SPARC database that's built in. It's basically a spreadsheet where all the SPARC investigators are listed, and SPARC actively encourage you to keep your information for you and your group up to date on that Airtable. And we ask you to connect that with SODA. So as I'm going to show you later, we could use that information when preparing your dataset description file, which requires, among others, information about you, your affiliation, and different members that participated in the dataset creation. And once you have connected your Airtable account, the last thing to do is to provide a little information about your award to SODA. And that could be done under this Provide Award tab. And what we do here is first we ask you to select the SPARC award. And this list of SPARC award is available automatically pulled from that SPARC Airtable spreadsheet once you connect your Airtable account with SODA. In here, I'm going to use this specific award that's related to that sample data set I'm going to use. And of course, nobody wants to remember this SPARC award number, so we allow you to search with the title or the name of your award. And once you do that, you can simply click on Add, and it's remembered by SODA for all subsequent use. If you have multiples here, like me, we would create a drop-down list. Basically, we have my own group's award here, and this is the one I just added. And the last thing we ask you is to import your data deliverable document. And again, for those of you who are not really aware about this document, it basically looks like this. What it is, it's an agreement between the awardee and SPARC about the different milestones and the date where data set related to this milestone will be submitted. And as I'm going to show you later, all that information from this document is required in the submission file. So by importing it in SODA, as I'm going to do here, what we do is we extract all that information, so it's make it easier for you later on to prepare your submission file without making any errors, since the curation thing is to compare word for word that your milestone that you list in your submission file correspond to a milestone that's in your data deliverable document. So at this point, you have completed all the preliminary steps, so we could start actually working on that new data set. And the first thing we suggest is to complete all the requirements on Blackfynn, starting by creating a new data set on Blackfynn for your new data set files. And this is done easily by simply entering a name for your data set and creating and clicking on create. I'm just going to copy here information I have for this specific data set. I'm just going to add some tags at the beginning to make it easier for me to search the data set and then just hit on create. And now if I go under my account on Blackfynn and refresh this data, and I see it right here. So the data set has been created. Of course, none of the metadata, such as banner image or a subtitle, that are required for every SPARC data set is available right now, since I just created the data set. So actually, the next thing we ask to do is to add all those metadata, which is the next feature that we provide here. So in here, you could add all those 4 mandatory metadata easily, successively. So you can type in this box a subtitle for your data set. And again, I'm just going to copy the information I have for this sample data set and paste it here. But of course, this is a editable field where you can type in directly. If there is an already existing subtitle for this data set, we also pull it out automatically and make it available here, so you can edit it and change it if you'd like. So simply hit the Add Subtitle button. Now your data set has a subtitle. The next thing to do is to add a description for your data set. And again, I'm going to just copy paste it here, but this is a fully editable field. On Blackfynn, you would have to use Markdown to style your description, but we provide here some text editing tooltips. And what SODA does is that it converts that to Markdown in the backend before pushing that on Blackfynn, so you don't have to deal with Markdown if you don't like that. And again, simply hit the Add Description button, and your data set has now a description. The next step is to add a banner image. If there's already an existing banner image for this data set, it will be shown here. And currently, since I just created the data set, there's no banner image for it. So I'm just going to add one. And I'm going to, again, select the one I have available for this specific data set. And we provide some assistance when you do that. For instance, all SPARC banner image must be square, so we make sure this cropping section is square, so you don't have to think about that. The other, SPARC also has some minimum size requirements for the banner image. And so if what you're trying to upload doesn't meet that minimum requirement, we tell you, hey, it's not there yet, you could do better. And so then you can change your banner image or increase your crop size to make that image size larger and meet the SPARC requirement. And although there is a minimum size imposed, there's also what's called a suggested size. And again, if you're still below that, we would just show you a little warning and say, hey, it's good, but you could do better. And again, if you want to do better, you could click no and go back, or just say, no, this is the best I can do, and just hit yes. And we'll upload that for you on Blackfynn. And we could actually go here. If I refresh this data set, all of that information, boom, magic, is available here. You have your little banner image, your subtitle, and also your description with the bold text and so on, added directly. And the last thing to do is to assign a license. If you go on Blackfynn, because they serve other groups and entities than just SPARC, there's several options available. And to me, I was a little confused the first time about which license to select. And it turns out, actually, for SPARC, there's only one option. All data sets are required to be shared under the Creative Commons Attribution license. So what we do is we simply have a button, you click on it, and SODA will go in there, select that license for your data set, and add it for you automatically. So if I again refresh this little page, the license now has been added. So at this point, your data set is on Blackfynn is ready. All you have to do is add your files and share with the curation team for review. Oh, before that, maybe a last first step is to deal with the permissions on Blackfynn. And the permissions are what you give to others on your data set so they can accomplish different action depending on what permission you give them among the different options available on Blackfynn. They would have different authorization to edit the data set. And if you don't want to think this too much, the only requirement for SPARC is for the PI of the award to be the owner. And all you have to do in that case is search for your PI. I'm just going to select someone from my team here and hit the make PI owner. We give you a little warning because once you make someone else owner, you lose ownership and it's not revertible unless they do that back and give you ownership again. And you just hit yes, and now your PI becomes owner of the data set, and you don't have to worry much about permissions anymore. Optionally, you can give permission to other members or team if they need to participate in preparing this data set. And now you're done actually with all your requirements on Blackfynn. If your files are ready, you have all your metadata files, they're organized according to SPARC. At this point, you could simply browse to your dataset folder and hit on Upload Dataset, and SODA will upload all of those files and the proper structure that you have on your local computer onto Blackfynn. For this demo, as you saw, we're going to start with the non-structured data set. So I'm going to walk you through a little bit more about what SODA can help you with. And so the next step is to prepare first those metadata files. And the first thing we recommend to you is to prepare your protocol on protocols.io. We don't support that in SODA since the protocols.io webpage is already really nice and intuitive to use. What we do is we link directly to that sparc.science detailed instructions that are available there to explain to you how you could prepare that protocol on protocols.io. And once you have done that, the next step is to prepare the submission file. And the submission file requires 3 fields. First is the award number. And again, since you have told SODA what your award is, we select that. It's available automatically. The next thing is to select your milestone. And these are, as I mentioned, pulled automatically from your dataset data deliverable document. What it does is that now you don't have to go look for that document, or there's no error. It's automatically pulled word for word from that document. And the dates are also pulled automatically from there. And you could select the one that applies to you. In the rare case where the date has been changed from the original agreement, we allow you to do that by entering a custom date. And similarly, if you have a data set that doesn't correspond to any milestone, there's an option that says not specified in the data deliverable document. And once you're ready with that, you could just click on generate. We ask you where you want to save that, and I'm just going to create a metadata folder here and save that file right there. And I'm going to open it in a bit once I'm done with the next step, which is preparing the dataset description file. And for this file, we provide, again, similar support as the submission file, where we help you through providing the different information. Because there's a lot more information in the dataset description file, we just have separate those into different sections so that it's a little easier for you to go through. The first thing that's required is the name of the dataset, which should match exactly what the name of your dataset on Blackfynn. And to ensure that, what we do is we allow you only to select from your Blackfynn dataset. There's a description that's required. And what we do is we pull that out automatically from your subtitle. And you could leave it as is if you want, or add a little bit more if that's what you desire. You could enter some keywords. Again, the tooltips on the sides provide a little bit more information. For instance, for the tooltip, it's suggested to have 3 to 5 keywords, and you could enter those here. And I'm just going to type a few words here. And a number of subjects, I'm just going to type 1 and 1. I'm just going to use 1 subject and 1 sample for the demo, so it doesn't take too long when I upload those on Blackfynn pretty soon. And you could hit next. The next thing is to provide award information. The SPARC award is mandatory, and again, we already have selected that, so it's already there. You don't have to worry about that, and you could enter additional funding source and acknowledgements if you desire. You could note that we have marked with a little star all the mandatory fields, so it's easy for you to track. And next is to provide information about everyone who has contributed to the dataset, and that's where the SPARC Airtable database is helpful the most. Is once you have selected your award, we pull automatically all the investigators that are listed into that database and link to this award. So you can select them easily. The Airtable database already includes the ORC ID, the affiliation. Of course, if you have added that, if not, you can add them here. And for this investigator, there's no role in the Airtable database, but you could add them again manually. What we recommend is to keep that Airtable database up to date, so then it makes it easier for you to prepare that. And for the contributor role, the curation team has imposed a set of terminology that applies, and you have to choose among them only. So we provide that list automatically, so you can only select from those. I'm just going to select few here for this investigator, and then mark them as a contact person, and just add that investigator into my contributor list. And I'm going to do that also for another one, just for demo purpose. Select a few options here. And I have here, if someone is not listed on your SPARC database, you could always select other collaborators and enter them manually here. But again, to simplify your task, we recommend highly to have everybody listed in your Airtable account and database, and everybody in SPARC has access to it. And if you don't, you could provide that information here that you can contact Dr. Horn to get access to it. And I'm just going to hit next now. The next thing is to provide some links about your protocol that you just created on protocol.io, which is mandatory. And you can also provide other links to articles, publications that are linked to this particular data set if you'd like. And on purpose, I'm just going to skip this mandatory step. And again, here you can provide some information about the completeness of the data set if required. And if I hit generate here, any mandatory fields that are missing, we would generate a warning. And for instance, here I haven't provided my link to my protocol. And you could always continue and still generate the file in case you don't have that information at hand. And you can always go in and add that manually later on. And the next thing is to prepare the subjects and samples file. If it the same, my subjects file is mandatory. The samples file, it depends on your data set. And currently, we don't support preparing those in SODA, but that's in our plan to provide a similar type of support for preparing those two files as well. What we have so far is that you can download easily the templates for this file, so you can then go ahead and prepare those manually for now. And so now that you have all your metadata files, it's time to organize and prepare that SPARC dataset structure. And to do that, we have this Prepare Dataset tab. As you would see as I go through this step, the user interface is different from what you have seen in the previous tab. This is because this is our latest feature, and we have tried to improve on the UI. And as we go forward in the project, our plan is to change all of those to look something similar to what you are going to see here. And in here, once you start organizing your data set in step 1, we ask you what you'd like to do. Currently, you can only start a new data set, but in the future, we plan to let you continue working on an existing local data set or even a data set on Blackfynn. And so in the future, we'll pull out your Blackfynn files and so on, so you can work on them through the SODA interface. I'm just going to click on Create New. The next step is to select what folder you would want to include. As you may already know, the SPARC structure only allows for 6 high-level folders and only include those that are needed for your data set. Never have an empty folder anywhere in your data set. And we provide a little definition here for each of them. If you need more information in our documentation, there's a little bit more information about what goes into each of those folders. And for this demo, I'm only going to need a primary folder and a derivative folder. So I'm just going to select those. And once you select those, in step 3, those folders are created in our virtual interface. And that's where you can go in and add your files and so on, rename them, as I'm going to show you, create other folders, and all will be done virtually. Nothing will be done or modified on your computer. So the first thing to do, as Anna already mentioned earlier, is in the primary folder, we should have one folder name after each subject ID. And for this demo, I'm only going to do one subject, which is M11. So I'm going to create an M11 folder here. The next thing to do for each, within each primary folder, subject folder, is if you have subject samples into the subject, is to create a folder for each sample within that subject. So I could see here in my samples file that for the subject M11, there's only one sample. So I'm going to create a folder name after that sample ID. And now I'm just going to add the primary files that were given to me. And if I look at here, those are the primary files that I was given. Again, this is not the actual data file. I've reduced a little bit just for demo purpose. So you could drag and drop those files in here. You could also use our import button to import those files, depending on what you prefer. If you right-click on any of those files, there's few options to delete. You would just remove the file from SODA, not delete the actual file. You could rename the file if you like. And if you click on Details, you could see the actual location of the file. We provide 2 fields, description and additional metadata, and where you could provide some additional information for that file, which would be then included in the manifest file if you ask SODA to create that for you. And I'm just going to add some random description here and some metadata here for the demo. If the same information applied to all your files, instead of having to repeat that for each one of them, you could click and say, hey, apply that to all of my files in this folder. And that's what SODA will do. And now I have my primary folder ready. So I'm going to prepare the derivative files. For the derivative files, it is suggested to follow the same folder structure as you have in your primary folder. What it does is that for anybody who's going to look at your data set and then know directly, hey, for these primary files, these are the corresponding derivative files. And as Anna mentioned, for this particular data set, there's two types of derivatives, some created by the investigators and others prepared by the MBF team with microfile. I'm going to create a folder for each of them and then import the corresponding file into both. point, I have my demo dataset ready. So I'm just going to hit continue. In here, we ask you to import your metadata file. And I'm going to just import the files that we had prepared through SODA. You could just, again, drag and drop or go look for them through the file browser if that's what you prefer. And I'm just going to import this tool and just click continue on purpose without the subject and sample file. And you see here that if any of the mandatory files are missing, in this case subject, we generate a little warning to make sure you're aware of that. And step 5, we ask you if you'd like to SODA to create this manifest file for you. And this is, I'm going to show you one of the most time-saving features that we have. So you would want to click yes here. And lastly, you have all the information. So you can either create your data set locally on your computer. And so I'm going to hit that and just first create it on the computer. What we have here is a little preview button, and what it does is that it shows you what your data set is going to look like once it is created. All those files are empty files, so don't try to open them. All it does, it shows you a little overview of what your data set is going to look like once it's generated. Once you're happy, you could just hit generate, and I'm going to have a webinar folder created here. And again, because it was generated locally and the file size was really small for the demo, it's pretty quick. But all I have here is my folder structure that I requested with the metadata file added at the right place. The folder structure that I had requested SODA to create, which was not available on my computer previously, has been created. And I also have the manifest file ready here. And what I forgot to do is to show you the submission file. Maybe I could show that was created through SODA, where we automatically take care of all the formatting, the headers, and include all your information in those files. Similarly, for the dataset description file, we include all the information automatically in the right format. For instance, each keyword is in a separate column. We have the right headers for you. For the investigators, we, for instance, put the role into the same cell, a comma separated, and so on. So you don't have to worry about formatting. All you do is provide the information, and so that takes care of doing everything for you. So we don't want you to think, so that's what we try to do. And once you have done that on your computer, the other option is to do that directly on Blackfynn, which is great, especially when you have a large data set. Especially, you don't want to create duplicates of all those files in an unstructured format and then in the sparse structured format. You could just push them directly on Blackfynn. So that's what I'm going to do here. Select my account. You could either ask to create a new data set or just choose an existing one. Since I already have one here, I'm just going to push my files into this specific data set. And when you select an existing data set, what we do is we ask you if you want to, what you want to do with existing folders or files. For instance, I'm going to push a primary folder up there. What if it exists already? Do you want to want SODA to create another primary folder, which would be named primary 1? Do you want SODA to replace that folder? So we'll delete the folder that was already there and push the new one. We could also merge that. So we would use the existing primary folder and push the new file within that same primary folder, or simply skip that. So if there's already a primary folder found on Blackfynn, we won't upload this new one. And right now, because the data set is empty, it really doesn't matter what I select, but we have the same options for files. If I already have a submission file that we find on Blackfynn, what you would like us to do, again, create a duplicate, replace, or skip. And I'm just going to generate now the data set on Blackfynn. What we do first, we prepare the folder structure for you on Blackfynn, so you can see the folder structure now has been created with all the subfolders and so on. And then we go on and push all those files into the right folder. And that's where the Blackfynn agent comes into play. Basically, what's running in the back end is the Blackfynn agent, and we give all the instructions for uploading the files into the right location for you. And the manifest files are also generated there for you. So I'm just going to refresh to see that the files should have been pushed. So now the file has been uploaded. What it's doing now, it's uploading the metadata file into the main folder. And so if I go back now, I have my metadata files that are up there. And the last thing it does is that it pushes the manifest file up there for you. And it's almost done. Just gonna wait for a little bit. So I have everything done. So I can open that manifest file for you just to show you what's happening up here. So we create that manifest file automatically for you with all the information in the right format and so on. You could see here the additional metadata we had included in the interface has been included for all files. I had added a little description specifically for this file here. It has been included as well. And the timestamp is in the ISO format as required for SPARC Dataset, so you don't have to deal with that. The naming also, if you're not aware on Blackfynn, if you have two files with the same name, even if they're different extensions, Blackfynn will upload them, add a little one or two, and etc. at the end of the file. So if you prepare your manifest file manually, this little, you probably won't include that in your manifest file, and then your name won't match with your files on Blackfynn. But SODA, we are aware of this behavior, so we have implemented that automatically so that we know how the name are going to change on Blackfynn once uploaded, and we include them automatically on here for you. The other thing is, if I go back quickly, is let's say you want to add later on an additional subjects file into your data set. And I'm going to do that here. I have already an additional subject file organized and with all the files. You could do that using those options I showed you before. Basically select the same data set and ask to merge. So what SODA will do is upload that new subjects directly onto that existing primary folder, and without creating another primary folder and so on. And the other thing that SODA will do is also, as you can imagine, now that you add more file into your primary folder, your previous manifest file is not valid anymore. And what we do here is we grab the old manifest file, add the new information within that file, and then upload it back up for you so that your manifest file is up to date and lists all your files, including the newly added ones. So you don't have to worry about that manually. So for instance, again, if you don't have all the subjects available, you could add them later, and the manifest file would be updated. For instance, if the MBF team needs to add few files in your derivative folder, they could do that again through SODA and have the manifest file automatically updated for you with the novel files that are added. I'm just going to open that file quickly. And as you can see now, there's few more files that have been added. Your previous additional metadata hasn't been removed, it's still there. And you have now two extra files that correspond to the new subject M131 that have been added to that manifest file. And now we're pretty much ready with everything, so it's time to share with the curation team. If you do that on Blackfynn, you have to do a couple of things to provide permission to the curation team, change your dataset status, and so on. We have included all of that into one click. And so when you click on that, we change all the settings on your data set. So then what it does is that it adds your data set in the queue for curation review. So they know that your data set is ready to be reviewed. we also send a text to Anna, followed by a phone call, and activate her home alarm, so she's aware that your data set is ready for review. And she's muted right now, otherwise you'll hear that alarm going on in her house. And we don't stop that alarm until your data set is curated, and that's the level of commitment we provide here at SODA. And so I'm just going to bounce back to the slides to just close up and list few resources here. If you need more information, we're also available to do a direct demo to your group if that's what you like, or answer more questions. So just reach out to me if that's what you like. And there's also curation office hour held by Anna twice a week if you have questions about regarding curation rules. And I'm going to leave you, give back to Jill probably to handle questions.
Looks like there's a question for you. Did you get that in the chat?
Let me open that. Chat.
So it's from Deborah Jaffrey.
Just going to stop that. That's better.
So the question is, what if the data set corresponds to a combination of milestones?
Oh yeah, so we handled that as well. So if you go into prepare metadata, you can add multiple ones in here. And if you generate that file now, we would include both those milestones into that file. So I just created this new file here. And again, we deal with this multiple milestone option as well. What we have been told is that if there's only one date that's applied, so the date you can only select one, but we allow you to add. Again, each one should be in a different column, and we take care of that, add the additional headers and